Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, a production by iHeartRadio.
And welcome to another edition of Wine, except I don't have a wine. I just have water. So I'm going to say hydrated. How about that?
Oh,
That's
nice.
Me. Yeah.
Yes.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you sipping on something, Anney?
I am. I think we're in the same boat as a lot of people in the U.S. right now. It is very cold. We hope everyone's doing well.
Be safe.
But I heated up some water and put a splash of whiskey, lemon, ginger, cinnamon.
Ooh,
it's very nice.
Nice. That's actually very smart.
Mm-hmm.
Since you can't have teas, can't do a hot toddy.
Nope.
But that's a good way to go. Yeah, so we are not currently sponsored by anything, just FYI. If you are drinking something, be safe, be conscientious on what you're taking, stay hydrated, stay warm, and yeah, do what you need to be at your best self. And if that means just laying about, do that, because that is also delightful. With a heated blanket is even better, Anney, just so you know.
Samantha's really pushing for me to get a heated blanket.
I love heated blankets. I know there could be some hazards. Don't use it all the time. But when you're sitting in a cold office and you wrap it around you, it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect, just so you know. But today for my hydrated session, I had the weirdest thing happen. And I've already told you this. And I'm really kind of like wondering the level that people really go to for their businesses and for, just trying to make money. And don't get me wrong, you got to make money. You have to live. The system sucks to a certain extent, and doing things like running your own business, being in real estate, being any of those things, you have to do what you have to do to make connections. It really sucks that a lot of networking is involved to truly actually be successful. Mm-hmm. And it's not just all about good work, which I'm not saying this person doesn't do good work, because I have no idea. Mm-hmm. But the levels that we go through, and I think I also think about this with like the pyramid schemes and the MLMs, it kind of just, there seems to be a crossing of boundaries, which I find kind of concerning. Like, I respect you doing what you need to do. But at the same time, the audacity and entitlement that it comes with kind of throws me. And again, if I'm your friend and we have been there for each other, that's one thing. Like the person who helped me buy my house, y'all know her. She's a friend of the show. Melody, she's one of the best realtors that could be out there. She did a lot in making sure I got my perfect house, but I also trusted her because she was also a good friend. She is also a good friend. So I know her. So I know her business ethics. I know that she knows what I want when it comes to a house. I know that she has the ethical level of what I want in buying that house as well. And so we've even have an episode about buying houses responsibly and not being a part of the problem when it comes to gentrification and what that looks like, especially in areas like Atlanta. So stuff like that. Like, that is one thing. I should never ever try to come at me and be like, you should buy these things, like trying to add things or trying, so like, I have gotten several, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, posts or DMs on Facebook, on things I'm like, hey, you should come to this little party. And you think it's like, for a while, it was the Zoom things online. Come to this. And you're like, we just want to catch up. Just a bunch of girls hanging out. And it turns out they're trying to sell makeup. I've not talked to you in 10 years. I've not talked to some of these people in 25 years because I hadn't seen them since high school. But because Facebook connects you, you start getting random invites to chats that you want nothing to do with. And you find out it's for sponges or some of the most random things. It's kind of like that one time where I lived with a person. It was like an emergency situation. She had a condo. She was looking for a roommate to help alleviate her rent. And I was like, yeah, I would love to, if that's okay, blah, blah, blah. Everything was okay until her boyfriend came in the picture. the strangest thing where her boyfriend was a part of a pyramid scheme. I did not know this at the time. And he brought in the worst paper towels. I hated them. They were like it didn't pick up anything, the cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And then like these sponges and all these things. I didn't think anything of it. He came over a lot and I was trying to okay, whatever, it's cool. Boyfriend, I don't technically own this house, but we're here. And she's a very cool person. Like, she and I got along really well. And then, this was years ago. And then, he came in and I had bought sponges or something because I realized we were low or something, or it was old. And I was like, I gotta get this. Dude comes in. I don't even think she was there that day because he had his own key. And he just kind of walked in sometimes that I was like, what's going on? Hey. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, my girlfriend's coming later. And I'm like, okay, weird. I'll talk to her about this later, but okay. And the one time, I remember I was sitting there and he was like, hey, did you buy these sponges? I was like, yeah, I saw that we need new ones. And he was like, oh, that's so sweet of you. That's so kind. But honestly, we use these sponges that I bring. So if you don't mind, don't worry. Please don't buy anything else. And I was like, one, you don't live here. Two, what? A condescending, what? And so It had turned out that he had gotten her to buy all his stuff so that he could make a living. This also escalated when she was gone on a trip for a week, and I knew she was gone. I was hanging out in the house. The dude walks in the middle of the night. It was 10 o'clock at night. It's like, hey, and goes to the bedroom and then comes out and starts eating and sits next to me. And I'm like, is happening? Why are you? And I texted her. I was like, so-and-so is here. Why? And she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'll tell him to leave. Dude left the next day.
Oh, wow.
After sleeping there. And I was like, I immediately packed up and left because those two things, I was like, no, we can't be doing this. We can't be having dude telling me I can't buy things in my own place that I'm paying rent for, as well as just walking in.
Right.
But recently, I have the notifications on my phone, or I get emails rather about what's coming in the mail. I started doing this because there was a place where I was missing things. I was missing letters from Social Security office and tax information from the IRS. I'm like, all right, I need to know what's coming and I need to complain if things are missing. Apparently there was this whole thing where in Atlanta, postal service people, not all of them, because I have a great postal service person. They're very nice, whatever, but had really apparently dumped just letters in a ditch because they didn't want to deliver them that day. And and the news people found them. So I like to get notifications to know that if I need to go and figure out what's going on, if something's coming, a package, a lot of bad things happen and people take things out of the mailbox, all those different things. And I noticed that I was getting a letter and it was a handwritten personal letter. So I was like, that's very rare. Let's be honest. In the world of emails and DMs, you don't get that. It was around Christmas time, so I was like, maybe Christmas, whatever. But it's from a dude that I have not talked to since junior or maybe sophomore year of college. So over 20 years. Over 20 years. Have not talked to them, have not talked to them on Facebook, have no interaction whatsoever. Dude doesn't even know if I still live in Georgia. Technically, there's nothing that really says much. For a little while, I was active on Facebook and giving my status like every other millennial and Gen Xer, and still boomers that do it today. But I haven't posted anything. I go on there for my one game that I really like, that I had to bargain with people to get stickers, which Anney was present for.
I saw it.
And as well as telling me events and people's birthdays. That's what's Facebook is for me. So I was like, what in the hell is this? How does he have my address? Again, remember, I just moved to my place a year or so ago, and I have lived in 10 places since college. So I'm trying to figure out, what is this? Is something going on? What is happening? Is this an issue that I should know? And so I'm like, waiting and like freaking out a little bit. This is causing me anxiety. And I run out and it's in my mailbox. So I pull it out. And again, the dude it has opened. I open it. There's a Post-it on a typed or printed letter that says, "Hey, Sam, it's been a long time. We should catch up." What the f-? So I open it up and sure, yep, it is exactly what you think. This dude has decided to not do what he's doing or what he was doing and go into real estate and was like, "Hey, I live in this amazing area. I love this place. You know, my family and I felt really at home now. And, you know, I made the huge decision to change my life and start this new career. I would love to show you property in this area," which is, by the way, in a completely different state. So I was like, what the hell? So this person not only went and looked for my information, which I tried to figure out, like, I looked up my own name outside of like knowing what I do, because obviously anything, my name is put typically on anything with the podcast, what we've been doing, or on a podcast, because again, I get a lot of credits for being on Behind the Bastards only 4 times out of their millions of episodes, but that's my claim to fame apparently, not our podcast, Anney, not our podcast.
Of course.
But I was like, what the hell? And yeah, like I finally found my name and I did find my address online, but it took me to get to like, I think like the 10th Samantha McVey's. And like, he doesn't know me that well that he would know my family. So it would be hard to associate. I doubt he knew my middle name. And so I'm still trying to figure that one out. And I'm like, how the f-? And there was another Samantha McVey in Kennesaw. As we know, my new sister-in-law is now Samantha McVey as well. So like all of these things that he hunted, and I think, and if anybody's in real estate, y'all can tell me, I have a feeling they do have access to more information. I don't know, through their real estate stuff. But again, I don't know how it works interstate, because he does not have, I wouldn't guess, a license in Georgia, because he's in a different state and he's been there for a minute and that's where he started his real estate venture. But like the fact that he looked me up for that, to send me a random request to buy property in his area, it feels both insulting and so disturbing. I really I don't want to even reach out because I don't want to acknowledge that I got it, because I don't want to confirm that he found me.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm like, I want to know, what did you do to find my specific information? Or did you just send out a letter to a bunch of Samantha McVeys and hoping that one of them was me? Like, I don't understand. And I'm really disturbed by this, because we've already talked about so many issues, like people trying to find us. We talk about very sensitive subjects sometimes. And like Anney, you've talked about being doxxed for a video that you only produced. So all of these things makes me really nervous, and I'm concerned, and I'm like, what is this? But again, I'm also really annoyed that this dude that I have no connection to would target me in such a way that feels violating, to try to get me to buy property at a place I don't want.
Yeah. It is upsetting when things like that happen, because you realize, like, yes, unfortunately, people can get your address. We had an incident several years ago at our office, one with the doxing thing, but then we had a legitimate stalker and we had to get security and stuff. But we used to have a thing called Delete Me, not currently a sponsor, but they would go through and they'd find your address, and it was creepy. Like it would be places I'd lived barely. I'm like, how did anybody know about this? I mean, of course, because we have to use the address, of course they know about it, but it was just like, wow, that was very specific. Okay. But it's also upsetting to kind of think on the lighter side, that when that stuff happens, you feel like such a commodity. Like they just are like, literally, I need to improve my business. Oh, here's a person, maybe I can.
That's the other part. Is like, again, I don't live in that state.
Right.
If you found my address through a real estate route, you should know that I just bought my house, so I'm not leaving anytime soon. So what? As well as the fact, like, again, he and I weren't even that close to begin with. We had like funny times, and we would hang out through groups of people for a little bit. But after like our groups disbanded, we didn't hang out. And that was literally for 1 year of my college life. And since then, and not only that, you send me a printed letter that is a generic printed letter that's literally like an ad with a Post-it. And don't even explain how you found, like none of just like, there's so many things to be like, I've had some, it's bad enough when I get a Facebook message, but at least I know how we connected, and I'm still annoyed, but I'm not like offended, like you do what you need to do. I got you. I click out of it, move on, or say no, thank you.
Right.
But this was like, I will say it got my attention. It got me annoyed. It has me more annoyed. But I'm like, I guess maybe it works. Will I use him? No. Sorry.
Yeah. I feel like there's a strange thing that's going on there of both, like, there's the idea of like, look how much work I put in, but clearly he didn't. But like the idea I tracked you down and I found you. But it's also, we've talked about this in my episode that was like, when men don't get it. It's true, women can be creepy and they can be stalkers. But if I get like a letter from a man I haven't heard from in a long time, it's like, I know where you live, essentially. Right. That would give me pause. It's not like I'm like, wow, he found me. It's more like, oh God, he found me.
Well, again, how did you find me so I can block that?
And if you don't even explain, it shows that he doesn't realize how strange that is and how kind of disturbing it is.
Oh, right. I mean, and then I started thinking about it too, like old school ways, like phone books existed and listed your address.
Yeah.
But like even now with the yellow pages and the white pages, it's still a little harder to do so. And you couldn't do it if you didn't live in that area. Which, does anybody get phone books? Do they still exist? Do phone books still exist?
I mean, they still exist. I don't know if they make new ones, but I mean, yeah.
Huh. Anyway, but like, I know those things happened. I know once upon a time we were a trusting country. Trusting peoples that were like, no big deal. But it's a little more, again, I know he put this as I'm annoyed, not necessarily scared, except for the implications that other people could find me, obviously. And we know that you can pay for information. Anyone can pay for information. And we are technically known. Like we are social media. We have a social media presence. We have a media presence at this point. So I get all of that. But the level that just like the uncomfortableness, the awkwardness, the anxiety it gave me to see that, which may be my own fault. Again, also, like, I'm a little bit paranoid. I've watched a lot of movies, watched too many true crime things sometimes. So that I'm like, maybe he's coming to tell me, like, someone faked being him, thinking that I had a connection and that this was something else, like poison in an envelope. Like, that's another thought I had. Y'all, I went all through the gamut on this one.
Poison on the envelope.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I know, I totally do. That's just funny.
Cyanide or whatever it is that they
I
put
was
on there.
telling you about I have somebody who contacts me. If you're listening, I'm sure this is like I also have issues with my keyboard, but every message they send, certain letters are capitalized. And I'm like, what does this mean?
They were sending a ransomware code.
Some kind of like coded message, but what is it? So I get you. I understand.
Yeah, like there are so many things that I was like, what is happening? But again, just the audacity of it that I'm like, I've gotten letters, but like typically I've gotten letters from people who are like, ask me for my address. I have gotten those. Recently someone sent an email like, hey, when to send Christmas cards, give me your address. So like, that makes sense to me. And I might not have seen them for years. Or I might only, like stuff like that. But that actually has like some courtesy to it and I know what's coming. This was a whole level of like, what the is this?
Yeah. Yeah. And you and I were talking about LinkedIn recently. And so like I haven't gotten that. And I do get, as you were saying, you have a business, you're trying to make it work. I understand. But I feel like I get a lot of stuff on LinkedIn that is like, send me your address. And it's usually a man who is like, I'm running a women-led conference and I think you should come. And I'm like, Interesting.
Right.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so it's hard to, because there is that level of, people are just trying to make it, but when something like that happens and they're just skipped a step and have your address.
That's the thing. I think if he had just like sent me a message saying, hey, I wanted to send these out, let you know this information, give you some information about my job, that would have been a lot more understandable, a lot more personable, a lot more courteous than the post-it. Which kind of is related to a Sex and the City episode we're going to come up on in a few years.
Oh, well, I'll look forward to it in a few years.
It's not anytime soon, I don't think. The rate we're going, not anytime soon. But yeah, like it was such a weird moment of this level of like, good on you for doing new business. Hopefully it's less stress for what it was previously. Y'all have done some cool things. I've seen some things on Facebook, never interacted in those, but cool. But that was that point of like, how do you think this makes no sense? And I wonder, like, I'm sure he did it with other people that he knew from college as well. I guess from college, because I'm like, have you not met more people in the last 20 years that you could reach out to first? There's so many questions though. But again, I don't want him to know he found me.
Yeah. I mean, it's
even
the same
though it's
thing
not like scary.
with an email. You don't click unsubscribe because then they know you exist.
I do unsubscribe.
Well, it might have changed now, but when I was in college, you were not supposed to hit unsubscribe because then they knew it was actually someone. And then they would just like send you more.
That makes sense. Now I know.
Like I said, perhaps the technology's changed. Perhaps big companies have gotten sued over it, and they don't do it anymore. But for a time, that was the wisdom: was you just pretended like you never got it. Maybe blocked it as spam or something.
Oh, block it. Okay, that's the route. All right, I'll remember.
Okay, we're learning every day.
We're learning things today.
Yes. Well, I would love to hear from listeners if you've had this experience. It is. Like you said, the implications are frightening of like the data that we all know this, but it is like, oh, okay.
Still to see it done. You're like, what?
So yes, if you would like to contact us listeners, you can. You can email us.
You have permission.
Yes, you do. Would love to hear from you. At stuffmediamomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter, Momstuff Podcast. We're on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff Mom Never Told You. We have a TeePublic store, and we have a book that you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff Mom Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.